They're gonna
Oh,
be
fuck.
squishing
Never
us on
mind,
the
you guys.
bridge.
Yeah,
They're
hold on.
coming down
Vortexing
the
you
north
guys?
road.
Over the road?
Bludgeon on the edge of the bridge. You guys are good to come through?
No!
Grab right here.
Hey guys, what's going on? So today I am bringing you a flail void gauntlet build that is an extremely strong support playstyle that capitalizes on empowering your melee fighters in your clump and keeping them healthy. This build provides an alternative playstyle for players who enjoy playing full support roles that may not enjoy healing. So the flail is the main weapon for this build, and I would consider the void gauntlet your offhand. The build works making use of multiple empowers, CCs, and buffs available on both weapons, as well as fortifies and cleanses on the flail. There are 2 or 3 ways you can play your flail. I'll bring up the pictures here of the builds on screen. For most PvP, I like using Smite, Vortex, and Bludgeon in my build. There are 2 specs I've settled on for speccing into Bludgeon. One uses the Cleric Capstone passive, Better Together. This passive provides healing for yourself and allies near you. It's a flat 16% of weapon damage that scales exclusively with focus. So if you wanted to run focus and not be in heavy, you could scale it a little bit higher. With my build, I'm not worried about that since we're in heavy, we're not using. The alternative spec is a bit more clunky, but it works well if you have multiple flails in the raid. It uses the Bastion Capstone passive, Human Shield. This passive lets you take 50% of the damage an ally would take while linked, and reduces it to 35% total that you end up taking. Since it's only a single ally, I wouldn't recommend running this unless you have multiple flails in the raid. The passive healing buff that you'll give to your raid from Cleric is just far and away better if you're the solo flail, or at least being the only flail that's running this. As well as the fact that you have to take a 4th active skill in order to fill enough points to get the Bastion Capstone. It's missing like 1 passive on that side, so unfortunately you have to take an extra skill point to get it. That's another reason why I've kind of steered into the Better Together. The 3rd spec is more for a chasing and locking down build. If you're a flail that likes playing outside the clump, this setup allows you to catch and trip priority targets and lock them down for quite a while if you're a kill squad to secure the kill. For the Void Gauntlet, I like to stick with this one particular setup. I like this setup for group PvP because it offers so much utility in large scale. With Orb of Decay, you can disintegrate clumps, or you can allow it to come back and give your allies a fortify stack, as well as a substantial heal over time if you're spec'd into focus instead of strength. Oblivion is key for this build. This is your melee's stamina battery, as well as a free empower and weaken. As well as if you have the armor perk, you are stripping any temporary buffs that the enemy melee have whenever they come into the club. Honestly, this ability is one of the most broken in the game, and you can turn fights just by pressing this button alone. Scream is the 3rd ability you want to take. The Putrefying Scream perk on the weapon reduces healing by 43% on hit. If you have Plague crits on your Void Gauntlet as well, and it crits, they're under 50% HP, it adds an additional 26% healing reduction on top of that, for a nasty 69% healing. So that takes care of the weapons and what I personally like to run with them. Next, I'll go over the attributes. There are honestly so many ways you can run this build, but I personally like running the 350 con variant. Since you are most of the time trying to be out front of the pack, initiating the clumps, soaking up abilities, or baiting out damage. So most of the time I will run 215 strength, 50 focus, 350 con, because the damage scaling for the flail is higher on the strength for the build. Since I'm playing heavy, the 30% healing reduction we take from the heavy armor doesn't make going deeper into focus very appealing. This way, we provide a non-negligible amount of support damage in the engagements we take part in. The 50 focus bubble allows us to receive 10% more healing, and the 350 con gives us grit, flat mitigation while we are light and heavy attacking between ability windows, and bonus armor and elemental. So on to gear. For perks on the weapons, you don't need to worry about attunement or shirking element stuff. We're not trying to add a bunch of damage on top of our weapons. What you want to focus on are the support perks. So I went for Plague Strikes, Trenchant Rend, and Burdening Smite on my. This flail is like the ultimate support weapon. You are giving disease on heavies, you are rending armor on heavies, and you're increasing cooldowns whenever you smite clump. For Void Gauntlet, the key perk you want is Putrefying Scream, and I like the Plague Crits just for that extra bonus every now and then. If the clump is low, you're giving extra. For third perk, it's kind of free. You don't really have to focus anything. You can use a Chromatic Seal, roll Putrefying Scream, and Plague Crits, and be good. I ended up going for Keen just to increase my chances of getting that lucky crit and getting an extra disease on the clump. Keen Speed would also be good. If you orb and you crit, you can get haste whenever you're engaging, but anything works. I'm running a couple different armor sets at the moment while the meta is kind of still settling into place. All of them are heavy. The only difference really is if I'm running Dark Void Plate or Tumbler Boots. For the perks I'm going to be stacking whenever I'm full bis, I am going to look for 4 Shrinking Fort, 5 Shrinking Heals, 5 Health, 1 Nullifying Oblivion, 2 Refreshing. That's like my baseline, and then everything else will be bonus. I'm running the Ankh on my jewelry still, even after the nerf, because the incoming healing is still really good. I picked Thrust Conditioning on my Ankh as the Matrix perk, since the thing that gets me out of clumps or keeps me from engaging most of the time are the blunderbuss, the bows, the muskets, or a spear, sword, and shield is trying to lock me out. As an alternative, you could also go Stam Recovery, since that's like a generally good all-around perk. For my ring, I'm running Arcane Damage, Hardy, and Invigorated Punishment. This allows us to squeeze out a little bit more damage in our build since we're such high con. Getting flat bonus damage makes our damage contribute a little bit more to the clump. So my earring, I chose Refreshing to try and get as close to the 4 out of 4 stacks. Healing Heart, since it's going to heal us for 10% of our max HP, which is really nice since we're stacking max HP anyways. It's like a bonus for us. And Regenerating. Before this patch, I was running Healthy Toast, because Healthy Toast was actually healing us really well. It was like 3,600 or something. After the nerf, the HP you get back is like 1,600, I think, whenever you pop a potion. So, with Regenerating and our current HP, we're regenerating around 120 HP per second. After 15 seconds, which is a mana pot cooldown, we're regenerating the same amount that we get from a Healthy Toast. So instead of worrying about having a button and locking in an animation, I went with a Regenerating. The shield you're going to want to run is a kite shield regardless of whatever armor weight you're in. So make sure you account for that whenever you're setting up your build. Kite shields add a stagger to your smite, and it's just absolutely crippling to the enemy. You can knock healers out of healing animations, you can prevent bruisers from instantly maelstroming the clump after they come in, and when the weapon perk, you're increasing their cooldowns after they do use something. For perks on the shield, I'm running Refreshing Move, Healing Defense, Mending Vortex, and Refreshing Defense. The shield could be expensive since the Mending Vortex Flail Charms are kind of expensive right now, but honestly, anything that's Refreshing Move, Mending Vortex should tide you over. You could also get Refreshing instead of Healing Defense. I would say it's either hit or miss whether you want healing or For heart runes, it's really up to your preference. You can run a lot of them with this build. The two in particular that I like the most are the Vines and the Firestorm one. I am running the Stalwart Heart Rune of Firestorm. It has the Enfeebling Storm and Cleansing Storm. So whenever you pop it, it's going to throw out a 15% weaken, as well as cleanse all of the dots from your clump and reduce burn damage by 15% on them. With the Heart Rune of Vines, we're using the Brutal Heart Rune of Grasping Vines. This has the Rending Vines perk, which reduces our target's armor by 20% and reduces their stamina regeneration by 50%, as well as Enfeebling Vines, which inflicts a 20% weaken on them. Either one of these heart runes, I think, are really good to run, but you can test with whichever ones that you actually enjoy yourself. For artifact armor, like I said, I'm running the Dark Void plate. This artifact, even though it's currently bugged and it's only giving you the bonus armor on the chest piece, it gives us a ton of physical and elemental resistance on our build. Right now, outside of combat, with nothing on, I have 3,278 physical armor and 3,044 elemental armor. With our bludgeon, it increases our physical to 4868 and our elemental to 4502. And this is before adding any shirking fort buffs, any team fortifies, anything else like that. So that just adds basically another 1,000 on top of everything. With the tumbler feet wraps, it's hit or miss whether or not I'm running them. It doesn't feel as good as pre-patch, but they still feel nice because they give you that flat fortify and that flat empower. But I think I like the higher just flat armor mitigation with the Dark Void plate. All right, now on to the playstyle. So you're the battery for your clump. It's your job to be bait and set up good engagements for your team. This build does not feel good solo. I hate to say it. It's really hard to get enough damage alone to kill somebody with the attribute spread that I run, especially with the amount of shirking heals and everything that everybody's running. It's hard to get that sustained damage to secure the kill. If you want to be a bit more dangerous and smaller scale, you could go 300 strength, 50 focus, 265 con, or even 350 strength, 50 focus, 212 con if your gear allows it. With I know with the wonderful magnify stat going around, sometimes it's not possible, sometimes you're ripping your hair out trying to get stat splits going. So that's just something to keep in mind. For now, I'll focus on what your job will be in the large scale fights. You'll want to ideally engage with your Orb of Decay, swap to your flail, and either bludgeon or smite. If you're right on the clump, bludgeon first. If you're a bit behind, you'll want to smite since it has like this small forward leap that comes with it, and that leap can help position you forward in your. Just alternate these, so for where you happen to be or what you see happening, you can use them interchangeably. You just know that this is your first priority to get down both of them. So after these, you want to swap back to your Void Gauntlet. You want to drop an Oblivion to strip your enemies and powers and buffs, as well as give your team their empower and give them a stamina regen that they're going to be desperately needing. After you Oblivion, scream the enemy clump to apply the disease and secure the favorable trade. After you scream, swap back to your flail and use Vortex to give your melee CC immunity, and you either move your clump forward or give them the ability to spread. If you're running the trip variant of the build, you'll want to just swap where you would bludgeon with a trip. You have to be a bit more careful with this since you won't knock down targets that have active grit, so just be mindful your CC may miss in the clump if you pop it to her. And guys, that's pretty much it for your job in the fight. This build's really fun. Just go out and practice the rotation. Whenever you get used to it and you're landing your vortexes, your clump's gonna feel unstoppable. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I look forward to sharing more builds and tips with you. And if you liked it, make sure to like and subscribe. It helps me out immensely, and I hope I see you guys again. Have a good one.